All right, hello. This is Ashley Spontarelli, and for my interview with a professional, I interviewed Mark. Mark is a clinical supervisor at Rocky Mountain Human Services, and he obtained his master's degree in psychology. I asked Mark what his job duties were, if he could describe his job duties for me. He said that he supervises 3 clinical care managers, 3 peer support specialists, and 1 housing and benefits coordinator. When I asked him exactly what it meant that he supervised them, he said that he basically ensures that they're meeting their contract deliverables, required KPIs, which I did not know what was, is apparently key performance indicators. Since most of his employees work remotely, that's how they track their activity. He also coaches them around their duties and their roles. He helps approve new contracts, prior authorization requests, chart reviews, and also attends complex care meetings. So for like more difficult cases, he would attend their care meetings and just kind of give input on that, either in like a one-on-one supervision or in group supervision. He said that he's also in charge of going through resumes for potential candidates that they might be hiring and working with HR to move them from like phone screening to then in-person interviews, and often also sits in on the interviews and makes observations and recommendations. He said that he ensures HIPAA compliance within their organization, so making sure that they're like abiding by different confidentiality and different things like that, and is being making sure that all HIPAA compliance is being honored by his employee supervisees. He creates workflows for different processes within their department and works within the community transitions department. So there are multiple clinical supervisors within his company, Rocky Mountain Human Services, and he is their clinical supervisor for the community transitions department. So when I asked him what exactly the community transitions department is, he said that basically the goal of their department is to ensure a safe transition out of into the community from different facilities like state hospitals or different any type of hospital really, jails and other facilities like that. He connects them to appropriate community resources to make sure that they're able to sustain a successful and safe life out in the community. So one of the ways that they do that is by focusing on prevention. So their goal is to like prevent readmissions into hospitals or different like a subsequent arrest. They do this by like making sure that their clients' long-term Medicaid is active, making sure that they're on the certain waivers that they qualify for and that they're active, checking out like Social Security benefits, making sure they have consistent transportation to their appointments or employment, connecting them with community mental health centers in the region, so making sure that they're getting those community resources and they're accessible and they know where to access them, I guess. He also makes sure that they have stable access to food and housing, and sometimes makes referrals for guardianship. So for those that maybe cannot make decisions on their own, he would make referrals for the court to assign an adult to help them make decisions regarding their, acting as their guardian. They work with people that have at least one behavioral diagnosis. So it's not just like anyone that they're helping with these situations. It's just clients that have at least one behavioral diagnosis. However, they do not have an age range. So they work from like infant up to the elderly, which I thought was really cool. Their goal is to just kind of like stand in the gap of what Medicaid covers and what is not. So they have a lot of different, they're a nonprofit organization that has a lot of different funding that can, that comes from the state, but just to kind of like offset a lot of the things that Medicaid is not able to cover. So I asked him what he found fulfilling about his work in the industry. And he said that he really loves being able to see clients outside of institutions and jail walls and living a sustainable and a successful life out in the community. he mentioned that so many of these people do not believe that that's possible for themselves, and giving them the resources and the empowerment to do so is just really rewarding. I also asked him what he found challenging about working in the industry. And he very quickly responded that the most challenging part is having to work within the systems, and how, unfortunately, so often those systems are not always working to benefit the client, and it have more red tape that makes things more inaccessible, and just, can be very discouraging and difficult to navigate. He also said that funding is another big obstacle, and that not having enough funds or everything coming down to money can be very discouraging. Another thing that he mentioned was lack of follow through for people that don't always have the passion for doing their job well. He said it can be very hard to motivate his employees, and just seeing people not really taking to heart their job and doing it well and to the best of their ability can be very discouraging. Lastly, he said that changes in legislature can be really hard to deal with because they affect people on such a deep level, and navigating those can be a challenge. I asked Mark what he does to continue professional growth in his field. And one thing I found interesting is that Mark is actually not licensed, so he doesn't have any requirements by the state that he has to fulfill each year. However, he does have required trainings per their contract that they must attend via his company, and they're just built into his day and paid for by the company. He said that they are also given the opportunity to pursue and take trainings that they're interested in, and that sometimes they're covered by their department based on the discretion of whether it will be beneficial to his job. I also asked him what his recommendations would be for a student working in the field of psychology. He mentioned to find a specific area that interests you, and if you can get licensed, to do so, because it's much more difficult to gain employment without licensing. That was all that he mentioned on recommendations, and so I pushed a little bit more into if he could explain to me just what he meant by the difficulty of not being licensed. And he explained to me how he actually began doing direct care while he was working on his bachelor's, working with students in a alternative school. So those that were of the DD population in an alternative school, working with them, and then did different levels of direct care for several years. And while he was obtaining his master's, he was a peer support specialist. And then upon graduation, he became a care manager, and then a care manager team lead, and then a training specialist, and then a clinical supervisor. So I actually asked him if he could kind of give me a little rundown of each of those roles, because it sounded like he had such an experience from starting at the bottom and then really building up. So he said the supervisor role is interesting because you're managing staff rather than clients, where in other roles, you're on the front line in the community, in the hospitals, and managing clients directly. He described the direct care role as the best role. However, he said the pay isn't great and you get burnout really quickly. He said the peer support specialist role was really fun because he got to meet where clients just where they were at and support them from a non-clinical lens and just kind of really relate to them on a down-to-earth level. He mentioned that the care manager role was enjoyable because he finally got to use his clinical skills to support clients as well as collaborate with community stakeholders. So he was attending a lot of meetings at the local state hospital and speaking with a lot of different people on boards. So the team lead, he said, was similar to the care manager, but he was also the point person for his team and took more of a mentor role in the team. The training specialist, he said, was getting people comfortable with the organization because he was the first face they saw for the first 4 weeks while they were doing training. Just introducing them to the culture of the workplace, creating trainings for the job roles, which he said was really fun because it was more of a creative muscle that he got to exercise. And Then he said the clinical supervisor role, which is the one that he does right now, he likes being able to coach people, and he likes a little more administrative work because he doesn't really have to deal with the clients anymore, and it's a little less of that emotional toll. And he also just mentioned he's just kind of a nerd and likes helping with the administrative stuff in general. He mentioned that he really enjoys, instead of supporting the clients, just kind of the shift that he's made in supporting his staff. So recently, with a lot of different policies and legislation changing, and things that are really not easy, he's enjoyed being the person that they get to come to and chat and vent to, and just really support his staff in that way. I really enjoyed my interview with Mark. It was really eye-opening. I think my biggest takeaway was just the different facets of the positions within his company. I think he has such a well-rounded perspective of the different things that you can experience within like a nonprofit company, focusing on, psychology, but, community relations in that way. I really found myself kind of like cringing a little bit when he was describing his supervisor role, and realizing that maybe that is not a role that I would enjoy very much, because I do really love that direct care, and the thought of just not being able to work directly with clients and taking more of an administrative role didn't really appease to me very much. But I really could appreciate that he loves it, and that he was clearly designed for that role, and that the need for that role and people that enjoy doing those different things. Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway with Mark, was just getting to experience the different levels within a company, and the different roles and the different ways that you can experience helping one cause. So when we think about his department, working with people transitioning out of different facilities, all of the facets that go into supporting that goal on such a different level. So you have the direct care people, you have the case managers, you have the team lead, you have the people that are supporting the actual direct care, and just the intricate puzzle that is needed in order to carry out such a goal. So I really enjoyed this project and really enjoy my time with Mark. Thank you.